Well, after Hillary Clinton reminded the country about the 2016 campaign on Tuesday, we got to relive some of it again on Wednesday. FBI Director James Comey testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee for almost 4 hours. And Russia's meddling in the election and Comey's handling of the investigation into Secretary Clinton's emails were lawmakers' main concerns. The FBI director defended the so-called Comey letter and said he struggled with his decision to come forward and speak about the Clinton probe so close to Election Day. But while he felt comfortable enough back in October to alert Congress he was reopening the investigation into the Democratic candidate's emails, there were some things he would not talk about on Wednesday.
The chairman mentioned that Fusion. Are you familiar with Fusion?
I know the name.
Okay. Are they part of the Russian intelligence apparatus?
I can't say. That's not a question I can answer in this forum, Mr. Chairman, because it would call for a classified response. I have to give you the same answer. I can't talk about that in an unclassified setting. Again, to react to that, I have to give a classified answer, and I can't give it sitting here.
CBS News security consultant and former assistant FBI director Ron Hosko joins me now. Good to see you, Ron.
You too, Vlad.
So, Ron, some of these things Director Comey couldn't talk about. What were they, and why couldn't he tell senators on Wednesday?
Well, Vlad, as he mentioned, he is not going to have a number of conversations with these senators or with the House of Representatives in different committees in an open forum where they're asking questions about ongoing investigations and certainly classified investigations. It is, kind of a core principle that there are certain forums that he is not expected to give an answer, and he's going to hold tight to that.
So, Ron, on Tuesday, Hillary Clinton blamed the director in part for her election loss, and at this hearing, Comey confirmed that an inspector general investigation into how he handled Clinton's email investigation is ongoing. Is this kind of investigation SOP?
No, I think it's fairly unusual for the inspector general to be looking at specific actions tied to the director of the FBI himself or the deputy director. But here, because there is such a political force, that questions, why Comey made these decisions, why he did what he did. I don't think it is out of the realm of logic or good judgment for the Inspector General to look over Jim Comey's shoulder, to look at DOJ policy. And really, I think they are going to have to factor in all of these underlying factors that came to play in what Jim Comey says drove the decision making.
So here's a question for you, Ron, and I'm going off of this very deep dive that the New York Times did a few weeks ago on Director Comey. Perhaps you've read it.
I did.
Yeah, and there was a question as to whether or not at one point when he was briefing members of Congress, he publicly scolded Hillary Clinton. He called her careless. And even if when you listen to the director this morning, he talks about the decision that he had to make, and he sort of says that for him it was a decision, one was a really bad decision and one was a catastrophic decision as to whether or not he should go to members of Congress with the letter that he was reopening the investigation. But that earlier testimony that he gave where he called her careless, was that standard operating procedure?
No, it really wasn't. And he explains that by saying there was such intense public interest in the investigation. It was quite obvious that the FBI had an ongoing investigation. And so he uses that as his justification for doing what he did. And in part, I think his underlying justification was the misstep, huge misstep, some would say, of Loretta Lynch in meeting with Bill Clinton on the tarmac out in Phoenix or in Tucson sometime before. So I think what he was justifying it on was he had to tell the American public that this was a credible, thorough, detailed investigation. It was substantive, it was meaningful. And I think he was trying to, find a way forward to giving credibility to the investigation when he believed that was eroding the public trust and confidence in DOJ and the FBI was eroding because of the political swirl and the DOJ meeting, the Attorney General's meeting with Bill Clinton. And he was trying to find a way forward that took her out of the equation, but still credited the hard work of the FBI.
Final question, Ron. In that New York Times article, and you could sort of see it today during the hearings, Director Comey is his belief in the integrity of the Federal Bureau of Investigation is absolutely rock solid, and its independence from politics, from lawmakers. In your estimation, though, when he was faced with the decision, even with the poor choices that Hillary Clinton made, that her husband made with the Attorney General, did it seem to you that in his mind the integrity of the FBI looms larger than the electoral process, or this is just part of his DNA?
I think it's part of Jim Comey's DNA, and I think his belief, and he said it today, in the value of congressional oversight of this very powerful organization. That's in his DNA as well. I think he struggled with this. We heard testimony about how he had discussions with his core team, how quite clearly it was in the room that this might have an impact on the outcome of the election. And I think he struggled with it all. I don't think he made this decision casually or flippantly or foolhardily. I think he struggled with it. He wrestled with it. I think he still does, and wrestles with how the American public processes that decision. But I've heard him in private settings as well, and I've talked to others on that team. And I think as a group, they were comfortable with the path that they followed because it was, in their minds, the right path.
Right. And there's something that hasn't really been picked up a lot, at least I haven't seen it on other networks, but that exchange that he had with the Senate when they asked him if anybody at the FBI had perhaps leaked information or spoken to people, for example, like Rudy Giuliani, and all he could say was that he doesn't know, but that they're looking into that. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But it was a really fascinating hearing. I'm sure you thought so as well.
Very much so.
All right, Ron Hosko, thank you as always, my friend.
My pleasure.